Welcome back to our channel, where we explore the mysteries and enigmas of ancient history. Today, we're diving deep into the heart of the Great Pyramid of Giza, one of the most iconic and perplexing structures ever built. We'll be unraveling the secrets of the King's Chamber and the ingenious security measures designed to protect the treasures within. The King's Chamber is not just a simple burial chamber. It's a complex system of portcullises and granite leaves that held a significant role in safeguarding the pharaoh's legacy. Join us on this fascinating journey as we delve into the intricacies of the potential security features and the ongoing debates surrounding its purpose. So, if you're as curious as we are about the mysteries of the ancient world, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and let's venture deep into the heart of the Great Pyramid. Exploring the King's Chamber security features in the Great Pyramid of Giza, we will discussing the architectural features of a chamber, often referred to as an antechamber but suggested to be more aptly named the portcullis chamber. This chamber is part of a larger structure, presumably within an ancient Egyptian pyramid, designed to protect the king's burial chamber from potential robbers. The chamber is constructed with granite and limestone masonry. The north wall of the antechamber is actually the back face of the large stone blocks that make up the south wall of a grand gallery. As one moves closer to the king's chamber, the builders wisely opted for granite, a more durable and robust material, to fortify the structure and prevent intruders from bypassing the security measures, which include 3 granite portcullises. Access to the portcullis chamber is through a narrow passage, which is 2 cubits, an ancient unit of measurement, wide and approximately 52.02 inches long, leading from the grand gallery. The height of this passage varies due to the uneven levels of the paving used. It's worth noting that there is a suggestion that this passage might have originally been designed to be 2 cubits square, as seen in the Red Pyramid. Based on measurements from Petrie's records, the distance from the south wall of the Grand Gallery to the north wall of the King's Chamber is about 268.9 inches or approximately 13 cubits. Alternatively, if measuring from the face of the Great Step or along the pyramid's east-west axis, it would be about 16 cubits. Here, we are looking down the short entrance passage into the antechamber of an archaeological site. The cracked ceiling stone visible in the image is a part of the stone structure that makes up the south wall of the Grand Gallery. Additionally, on the floor, you can observe the transition from the limestone flooring to the granite flooring. A metal grille can be seen, which serves as a barrier, preventing access to an excavation carried out by Caviglia. This excavation was conducted with the aim of intercepting the northern shaft. Furthermore, there's mention of a granite leaf, which essentially consists of 2 pieces of granite, and is embedded within a groove that extends only to the passage's ceiling level. Beyond this granite leaf, you can notice grooves cut into the south wall of the antechamber. These grooves were designed to provide clearance for ropes that were likely used in lowering the portcullis, an ancient security feature. In the distance, the south wall of the King's Chamber can be observed. Although not much data about Caviglia's excavation is readily available, such excavations provide valuable insights into the ancient masonry processes and construction techniques used in these structures. In this drawing by pairing, it's marked Caviglia's excavation in this specific area. Caviglia's excavation was an attempt to intercept and trace the northern shaft, which is much closer to the Grand Gallery. It's important to note that the northern shaft of the King's Chamber deviates from its path much earlier than the northern shaft of the Queen's Chamber. This deviation means it bends more sharply. Gantin Brink, in his work with a robot, took advantage of Caviglia's excavation. This allowed his robot to navigate through the shaft, avoiding many of the sharp bends and obstacles that would have otherwise been encountered. What may be challenging to discern in the photograph on the previous page are the wainscots and pilasters. These architectural elements served as guides for the portcullises as they were lowered into position. Unfortunately, these features have sustained significant damage, likely not from the original tomb raiders who forcibly penetrated the portcullises but rather due to the actions of tourists. Early accounts describe how tourists used to harm the granite sarcophagus in the King's Chamber in their attempts to collect a piece of it as a memento. Some of these tourists found such actions disrespectful or sacrilegious, so the guides would instead offer them fragments from the antechamber. In this image from Edgar's work, we can observe one of the individuals standing in the space situated between the northern wall of the antechamber and the granite leaf. This space marks the point where the flooring transitions from limestone to granite. This image is captured from within Caviglia's excavation. The antechamber has garnered significant attention from pyramidologists who perceive a wealth of religious and mathematical symbolism in its design. For instance, they note a particular point where the granite section starts, and this point is at a distance of 103.2 inches from the southern wall of the antechamber, according to Petrie's measurements. This measurement appears to be replicated in the height of the eastern wainscot, which is set lower than the western wainscot. This measurement corresponds to 5 cubits, and it is suggested that these measurements draw attention to a square with sides measuring 5 cubits, and that the area of such a square is equivalent to a circle whose diameter matches the length of the antechamber, which is approximately 116.30 inches, according to Petrie's data. In this scene, one of Edgar's explorers bends down beneath the granite leaf, which is actually composed of 2 separate granite pieces, and you can clearly see the horizontal joint where they meet. The pilasters, which once served as guides for the portcullises, have been partly removed, but their outlines are still visible. In the bottom right corner, a fragment of a pilaster remains at floor level. Sir Flinders Petrie, a renowned Egyptologist, provided insights about the granite leaf. He mentioned, the granite leaf, which spans the chamber and sits within grooves carved into the granite wainscots, must be somewhat narrower than the distance between these grooves, ranging from 48.46 to 48.76 inches. He also stated that the thickness of the 2 stones comprising the leaf was measured at 33 points, varying from 15.16 to 16.20 inches. However, Petrie noted that the accuracy of the workmanship was questionable, given the rough and irregular nature of the object when closely examined. The granite leaf is not a plain, flat slab of granite. It has a projection, about 1 inch thick, on its northern side, where it fits into the side grooves. A saw cut marks the edge of this projection along the western side, and the inner side of this cut has been carefully worked to remove the granite surface, leaving only one patch or boss of the original block surface. The boss, mentioned by Petrie, is located on the upper piece of granite, which is oriented towards the north wall of the antechamber. In other words, it's in the same area where Edgar is standing in the upper of this image. The boss itself has a semi-circular shape with a flat lower edge, and its depth is approximately 1 inch, matching the depth of similar features at the east and west ends of the granite leaf, which fit into the grooves in the wainscots. The flat ledge of the boss, as noted by Smith, is positioned at a height of about 5 inches above the joint between the 2 granite pieces. It's also not precisely centered within the leaf. Smith provides its center as being approximately 19.5 inches from the west wall and 21.5 inches from the east wall. The granite leaf has long been a source of mystery and speculation. Some early explorers proposed the idea that it might have functioned as a portcullis that was never lowered into place. However, this notion is largely rejected because the groove in which the granite leaf is located only extends down to the roof of the passage, which wouldn't be the case if it were designed as a functioning portcullis. Nonetheless, the granite leaf remains a peculiar and enigmatic element, particularly when you consider the effort put into shaping it, including the removal of 1 inch from its north side, and the inclusion of the boss or the semicircular feature. Here, we get a clearer view of the boss's shape, as well as the joint between the 2 granite pieces. The distance between the worked or dressed face and the north wall of the antechamber is approximately 21 inches, and it's possible that this measurement was intended to represent a cubit. It's important to note that the quality of workmanship in the antechamber is not as impressive as what we observe in other parts of the pyramid. In fact, Sir Flinders Petrie remarked on this, stating, "When we examine the details of the walls, the rough and coarse craftsmanship is quite surprising, especially when compared to the exquisite masonry of the pyramid's casing and entrance." The primary purpose of presenting these specific measurements is to demonstrate how poorly the pyramid builders executed their work. The considerable variation in the measurements further highlights this point. The fact that the antechamber displays rough and less refined craftsmanship should not be astonishing. This space served a purely practical purpose as it housed 3 portcullis blocks, and there was no need for elaborate or fine finishing in this utilitarian area. When we examine the southern side of the granite leaf, we can observe some of the pilasters that have survived over time. The upper edge of the leaf appears to have suffered damage, particularly on the eastern side, where more pronounced damage is visible at the top of the pilaster. Just above, we can barely discern the upper edge of the eastern wainscot, and beyond that point, the antechamber widens. According to Smyth's measurements, he provides the height of the antechamber as ranging from 149.2 to 149.5 inches, with the top of the eastern wainscot being about 46.2 inches below the ceiling. This gives us the height of the eastern wainscot above the uneven floor, which falls in the range of 103 to 103.3 inches, or approximately 2.62 meters. On the other hand, the western wainscot is positioned higher, with only about 37.5 inches below the ceiling. Unlike the top of the eastern wainscot, the western wainscot is not a flat ledge. It features three roughly carved semicircular depressions. As we gaze into the northwest corner of the antechamber, two of the three semicircular depressions on top of the higher west wainscot come into view. The top of the granite leaf is visible, and beyond that, we can observe the transition from limestone to granite masonry at the north end of the antechamber, which continues for the rest of the chamber. The antechamber is covered by three granite blocks. Above the wainscots, the antechamber widens, with Smith estimating its width to be around 65 to 65.3 inches. The distance between the pilasters is approximately 41.4 to 42 inches, matching the 2-cubit width of the passage. The grooves between the pilasters appear to have a width of about 48.1 inches. The bottom of the semicircular depressions seems to align with the top of the east wainscot, suggesting that wooden logs may have been placed inside these depressions, with the other ends resting on the flat shelf of the east wainscot. One intriguing question that arises is why the two wainscots were not at the same level and why they feature circular depressions. Was this a construction error, or was there a deliberate and specific reason behind this design choice? In this early image by the Edgar brothers, we have a perspective similar to the previous one, but it was taken from a higher vantage point. What's intriguing in this image is the dark area that it's indicated with an arrow. What could this be? According to the Edgars, who examined the granite leaf closely, it appears highly unlikely that the architect designed it to function as a fourth portcullis. Their reasoning is twofold. First, it was never used as such, and its design wouldn't have made it effective as a portcullis. Second, the granite leaf is firmly cemented in its current position, and there are indications that it may be mortised into place, although this isn't easy to confirm. There is limited information available regarding this dark area, but initial impressions suggest that we might be looking at a possible mortise carved into the groove of the granite leaf. It's conceivable that there was a corresponding tenon on the upper leaf, which could have restricted the vertical movement of the leaf, possibly serving as an additional security feature. For example, one could imagine that the boss on the upper leaf might have served as a pivot point. The rigging for the portcullises could have been threaded between the two leaves, with the weight of the upper leaf clamping the rigging in place. To lower the portcullises, a sturdy piece of timber would be positioned at an angle under the boss, and a powerful blow at the base of this timber would pivot the upper leaf up, thereby releasing the rigging and allowing the portcullises to drop under their own weight. Once released, they might have applied a layer of mortar between the two stones for added security, although the reports are not entirely clear on which parts of the leaf contained mortar. Regarding the irregular top edge of the upper leaf, there are differing opinions on whether this irregularity is a result of deliberate damage or a natural feature. For instance, Petrie believed it to be the natural surface of a granite boulder, while others suggested that the upper leaf might have been more regular and extended to a greater height. Smyth's measurements provide some insight into the differences in height between the lower and upper leaf. According to him, the lower leaf stands between 27.5 to 28 inches high, while the upper leaf varies in height from 18.0 inches on the east side to 23.5 inches on the west side. This represents a considerable difference in height between the two leaves. If Petrie's assessment is accurate and the irregularity is indeed due to the natural surface of a granite boulder, it could potentially explain why the boss on the upper leaf is slightly offset from the center towards the west wall. In this scenario, the boulder would have an uneven distribution of weight, with more weight leaning towards the west side. This image presented in Figure 8 from Maraggiolio and Rinaldi's TAV7 illustrates their interpretation of the portcullises within the antechamber. In the left image, the portcullises are depicted as resting on wooden box, which is a logical arrangement. This setup implies that one wouldn't place the rigging under tension for many years while waiting for the king's death. In this image, there's a question mark accompanying the reconstruction of the upper leaf. In the right image, the portcullises are shown in their lowered position, and the suggestion is made that additional masonry was added on top of the leaf for enhanced security. However, a significant issue with the design of the antechamber, as noted by many, is the gap between the leaf and the north wall of the antechamber. This gap potentially provides a bypass route for would-be robbers, as they could simply climb over the leaf, walk along the top of the lowered portcullises, and then target the base of the chamber's south wall to gain access to the passage, ultimately leading to the valuable prize of the king's chamber. Certainly, if Petrie's observation that the irregular upper part of the leaf is a natural feature and not the result of human damage is accurate, this could potentially make the security issue even more problematic. It would seem unlikely that the design of the portcullis chamber would allow for such an obvious bypass route. One solution to address this vulnerability, given that the upper ledges of the wainscots extend all the way back to the chamber's north wall, although at varying heights, would be to place a covering stone over this gap. This covering stone would prevent potential robbers from bypassing the granite leaf. There could be various design options, such as a T-shaped covering stone that extends below the upper edges of the wainscots and partially covers the upper leaf. It's plausible that the operation and design of the portcullises were thoroughly tested before the chamber ceiling blocks were put in place. Once they were satisfied with the correct operation and rigging solution, the portcullises would be raised to their storage position and supported on wooden beams. The wooden logs and rigging would be reset, with the rigging passing through the gap between the two parts that make up the granite leaf. This gap would be held open by a spacer. A suitable covering stone would then conceal the gap between the leaf and the chamber's north wall. This entire assembly would remain at rest, with no tension placed on any of its components until the day of the king's burial. It's also possible that, as part of the security measures, the small passage from the grand gallery was sealed off. The great step, being 3 cubits deep and 4 cubits wide, could have accommodated stones, each 1 cubit thick, stored on either side of it. These stones or a single stone could have been used to seal off the passage opening. Meriglio and Rinaldi suggested that the visible damage on this image might be indicative of attempts by robbers to cut through a sealed passage. In this early image by Edgar, we can observe the damage inflicted on the south wall of the chamber, which had 4 grooves cut into it. The south wall is primarily a single large granite block, except for a small portion at the top, which is made of limestone. Nowadays, this damage has been restored, as evidenced here. However, this restoration doesn't match Petrie's description of the ends of these grooves. He mentions, the south wall has 4 vertical grooves all up it, which have been hitherto supposed to have extended down to the top of the passage to the king's chamber. This was not the case, however, for, though much broken away, it is still clear that they became shallower as they neared the bottom and probably ended, leaving an unbroken flat surface over the doorway. The observed damage here could potentially indicate that robbers managed to bypass the granite leaf or breached the first portcullis, and then bypassed the other 2 by attacking the base of the south wall. As we examine the south wall upwards, we can distinguish the curved shape of the grooves and the small limestone block at the wall's upper part. These grooves were designed to create a space for the rigging, ensuring it wouldn't obstruct the operation of the portcullises. The grooves that served as guides for the portcullises have slightly varying widths. For instance, on the east side, Smith reported measurements starting from the north end, 22.0, 21.4, and 21.1 inches. In comparison, on the west side, the measurements were 22.1, 21.0, and 20.4 inches. The granite stone found near the original pyramid entrance, which includes holes for rigging, is likely a part of one of the portcullises. It measures about 1 cubit in thickness and 20.6 inches in width. Clearly, there needed to be an adequate amount of clearance between the pilasters, especially if the release of the portcullises was carried out remotely, and access to the rigging was not readily available. In the schematic reconstruction above, it's presented one example of many possibilities, and it's important to note that this is a very tentative interpretation based on the limited data available for this chamber. Before operation, The rigging passing through the granite leaf would be securely clamped by removing any spacers and allowing the upper stone to grip the rigging tightly. Any supports holding the portcullises during their extended storage period would be removed, and the entire system, along with the rigging, would be under tension. The schematic rigging shown here is purely illustrative, and the technical details would require expertise from specialists in the field. It's included a tenon on the upper leaf in case a mortise exists in the wainscot, and a T-shaped cover stone to prevent robbers from bypassing the leaf. Once the system is locked and loaded, a sturdy piece of timber could be placed at an angle under the lower edge of the boss. A forceful blow to the bottom of this timber would lift the leaf and release its grip on the rigging, allowing the chain of portcullises to lower under their own weight and, ultimately, seal off access to the king's chamber. The potential weak point in this system would be the cover stone, which, like the upper leaf, has unknown dimensions. Robbers could attempt to lift this stone first to bypass the leaf and attack the south wall. There are no grooves on the passage floor where the portcullises would rest to prevent levering, as seen in Khafra's pyramid. As previously mentioned, the semicircular depressions for logs are present only on the higher west wainscot, while the log ends would rest on the flat shelf of the east wainscot. This arrangement may seem unusual, as one end of the log is not fixed but has the ability to move. However, this is unlikely to affect the operation when lowering the portcullises. In fact, it may have been intentional as an additional obstacle for robbers. Robbers attempting to break through the leaf and use the ropes to raise the portcullis might encounter difficulties due to one end of the log being movable. Ultimately, the chamber's design and operation remain speculative, as the available data is old and consists of a mixture of inconsistent measurements and opinions. It would be beneficial to conduct further masonry analysis of the chamber and a more detailed examination of the granite leaf, including investigating the dark area in Edgar's image and pinpointing the reported mortar on the leaf. As we conclude our exploration of the intricate security features of the king's chamber, we're reminded once again of the remarkable engineering genius of the ancient Egyptians. The Great Pyramid of Giza continues to be a source of fascination and mystery, offering a glimpse into the minds of those who built it. If you found this video as intriguing as we did, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more adventures through history's enigmas. Your support keeps us motivated to uncover the secrets of our past. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we look forward to having you with us on our next expedition into the wonders of ancient civilizations. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.